Hello. It's been pretty hectic trying to figure out my career and stuff, but finally, I think I have everything figured out. I'm ready to talk about how I went from being on academic probation in college to now landing my dream job. Before we dive into my first semester, freshman year of college, which is basically where everything went extremely south for me in terms of academics, I think it's good to put into perspective what kind of student I was in high school. I was the very typical nerdy, always went to class, always did our homework, always basically got an A student in high school. I took a whole lot of AP classes. I came in with 55 hours of credits. I failed the classes I had to take in college with my AP credits that I received from high school. Don't want to toot my own horn. I got like a 1540 on my SAT. My GPA was like a 3.84, which was the unweighted one, and the weighted one was like a 4.9 or something. I'm looking at my notes, by the way, which are on the side because I tend to have very short memory. I was in a lot of clubs. I was in band. I was on all like the smart people clubs. No drinking, no smoking, no partying. My entire senior year of high school, I took like all the AP classes you can imagine. I was like literally insane. I took AP Physics, AP Chem, and AP Bio. And in order to do well in those classes, I literally had to stay up so many nights. This process of trying to be like the perfect student made me really tired, really stressed out. I like didn't like learning anymore. And I also wasn't really hanging out with a lot of people because I was just staying inside studying the entire time. At the end of high school, I made a pact to myself that I would not devote my entire life to school and to like find happiness in other ways, such as hanging out with friends, something that isn't related to studying in my room the entire time, right? That was my mindset going into college. And I actually do agree with my mindset that I shouldn't put too much emphasis onto my grades and like not to make academics my entire world. I think what I thought was like, I deserve a break from studying so much and from literally devoting the last 4 years of my life to AP classes and doing well on tests.
I already did so well in high school that I don't need to do that well in college anymore.
The first semester of freshman year in high school, as you can imagine, I went from being like a quiet little steady person to like a full party animal. I was literally partying Thursday through Sunday, 4 days a week. I made the mistake living in like the social dorm, the most social dorm there is. I was surrounded by a lot of drinking, and so I kind of dove into that world for like the entire semester. I prioritized my social life over my academics heavily. The amount of time someone asked me like, shouldn't you be studying? I'm like, I know, let's just have fun. I think I studied the entire semester for a total of about like maybe like 10 or 15 hours for the entire semester. The rest of the times I would just like get by, you know? And I was not in a good headspace. I was just preoccupied with having this gigantic group of friends. By the way, even though I had like a lot of friends, they were good for me socially, but they weren't good for me academically. So they didn't like propel me and like inspire me to be like a good student. They kind of just like made me happier socially. I knew I needed to find other people that were like in my major. For example, I was friends with like English majors, business majors. I was friends with basically anything that was not engineering. I did not associate with anything engineering. I eventually ended up on academic probation, which is basically that your GPA is lower than a 2. You're basically told by the school that if you don't do well next semester, in this case my spring 2021 semester, that I would get kicked out of college. And yeah, that was just really frightening. And I was like, okay, that can happen. My GPA I ended up with at the end of my first semester of freshman year was a 1.52. That sounds really, really bad. I guess it is really, really bad. Don't worry, I bounced back. Second semester freshman year, this was my semester to turn it around. I would attend all my classes, I would go to all my labs, make new academic friends in engineering, get myself more like hands-on technical experience. So that was my plan, and honestly, I was doing pretty good at it until COVID hit. This was the semester where COVID hit and I had to get sent home. The school, as it should, was super lenient about classes, super lenient about attendance, assignments. Like I didn't really have to do any of that to get an A. So basically, because of COVID, I didn't need to try anymore. We've moved on to my upward trend in academics. It all started second semester of my sophomore year. During COVID, I was living at home. I was distracted by all my home friends that I love hanging out with that are basically my only friends right now. I was in a new relationship. I was like surrounded by my family. I was like in love with my environment, but it didn't allow me to be a good academic student. So I decided that second semester sophomore year, I would return back to campus at the apartment that I was paying rent to that I wasn't actually living at. So I went back there. I was back with my group of college friends. However, we weren't really doing that well. We kind of had a falling out over the course of the entire year. So when I returned, it was like super awkward. And then I realized it's not gonna work out. So basically we weren't friends anymore. And then I was in this like super depressed, sad, lonely, in my room all day headspace. I used that time I had and the new environment I had to seek out engineering related things, because I knew like if I didn't go into an engineering RSO and joined it right now, I would be in a bad place to start my junior year. I joined a bunch of RSOs, which are registered student organizations. The first one I joined was Society of Women Engineers, a socially oriented engineering club. They host a lot of engineering related events. I tried out Baja SAE, which is like the off-road car team, although that didn't stick that well my sophomore year because I was more invested in volunteering at the Innovation Studio, which is the job I had last semester. It doesn't exist anymore. So the position's no longer a thing. I got to work with a lot of 3D printing, hands-on tools like drills and stuff like that. Super helpful for like my technical aspect of my life. I learned at the end of that year that sometimes you need to like go through like a traumatic event or a reality check in order to like build a better version of yourself. If I never went through a falling out with my friends or like failed school, I would never like push myself to like be a better student or a better person. Because of those events, I like wanted to propel myself out of my misery, out of like the dark hole that I dug for myself. Hold on, let me check the time. I got a class at 3. Okay, it's 2:16. Another thing I did was I applied to a lot of internships, but because of my low GPA, due to the catastrophe of my freshman year, which was now standing at a 2.75, I didn't get any internships whatsoever. The minimum GPA requirement is a 3.0, so I was like automatically rejected. No thank you, you didn't get the job. No thank you, you didn't get the job. First semester of my junior year. This was like kind of a bad semester for me because I was going through a breakup at the time. So I literally like dropped all my classes slightly. Like I did not completely like blow it off like freshman year, but I tried, but I couldn't do well because my mental was like not good at all. I prioritized like hanging out with my hometown friends who also go to this school. Before that, I only hung out with like the people I made friends with in college. Things got better. I learned to be okay with like being alone. I became more of an individual. Now that I mention it, I like prefer being alone sometimes now. I know it's like weird to say, but like sometimes it's just better when all your energy is focused on yourself and not someone else. Like it's so much less tiring. So now it's the second semester of junior year. This is when everything really picked up for me in terms of career. Since I was like over my mental hurdles that I had faced the first semester, I was back to my academic wonderfulness of like getting A's in classes, actually attending classes. I think I actually attended like all my classes for the first time. So now my focus really turned on my career. Once again, I applied to internships late. However, this time I started like February, which is not that late, but it's preferable to start like in the fall, right? I had applied to a lot more internships than expected. I was like late in the game. So I applied to 300 to 400. Maybe that's an exaggeration, but it felt like that. Just like constant sending out my resume to like all these companies. I got like, I think 4 to 6 interviews. Also, side note, at this point, my GPA was higher than a 3. Eventually, I did hear back from 2 companies. One was in Boston and another one was near my hometown. So I picked the one near my hometown because I didn't want to pay for like another apartment because I'm already paying for this one that I'm in right now. I made a video about my internship experience at this company on my YouTube channel. It's already up. It was just a great experience. I learned a lot. It was a small medical device company. It was like a really tight-knit family dynamic. I learned a lot about like the technical engineering world, specifically like medically related, but also I learned how to like interact with a lot of professionals. Hear more about it in the video. Yeah, so now we moved on to my senior year of college. Feels surreal that I have not gotten kicked out of college yet. First semester, senior year, now my entire focus was on getting a full-time job. I knew I wasn't gonna get well, this was my mindset at the time. We know the results, but I knew I wasn't gonna get my dream job because of how low my GPA was and how little internship experience I had. Because when you are applying for a job, the most important thing is your internship experience. I applied to any mechanical engineering full-time positions I could. I applied to a lot less than my first time applying during my internship because I applied super early. I started like end of August, beginning of October. Oh wait, I skipped a whole month. End of August through September for all these positions. I applied to like 100 positions and I got a lot of interviews actually. I got like 10 interviews from only applying to like 100 positions. I think that's because I had an internship. Even if it's just one, even having one is super important. Once you have one, you get a whole lot of interviews, and then from there it's just like your ability to answer questions correctly and like connect with the recruiter, right? I landed one job. First job was a missile designing job in Arizona. I was actually so shook. I was like, me getting a job? And at this point it was in the industry that I wanted to go, and it was in like the aerospace industry. So I was like, oh my god, I'm never gonna get anything better. So I accepted. I just kept doing interviews because I knew that I wanted something that fit me more. I didn't see myself living in Arizona for the next 2 years, okay? So I just kept applying, and then eventually I got an interview for my dream company. I thought I literally completely failed the interview, but then 2 weeks later they sent me an offer. I'm like confused, but at the same time so happy and proud of myself for getting to this moment. Not only did I get a full-time job, I got a full-time job from my dream company. Me, who was on academic probation, failed like school. So yeah, I wanted to make this video talk about my experience going from the poster child of what not to do in college to receiving my dream job with like a little bit of luck and a lot of determination to show that grades are not everything in college. You should prioritize your academics in college, but not to the point of devoting your entire life to getting an A. You know what I mean? Your GPA is not the most important thing when you're applying to a job. What's important is your experience in internships. You will get a job. You can even get your dream job, even if you were or currently on academic probation. Like, it does not matter. Thank you for watching my video. I wish you all luck on your job searching. You can do it.